This conference will now be recorded.
I'm telling you.
Okay.
He was fun. It was funny listening to the stories. I mean, good gosh, and you know him, so hell. All ready down there. Jim catches up real fast. Y'all good? All right. Like to call the meeting to order as always. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. Anybody have anything we need to add to the agenda this evening?
I did not, Mr. Chairman.
What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. As always, public comment. Public comment. There. Thank you all for coming. Anybody online? Good. Is that Jerry? Oh, good. All right, we'll do it again at the end. Consent agenda. We've got minutes from 2/8/2024. What would y'all like to do?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. No special appearances. Old business. Jonathan, you want to kick this off with the tax deferral, and then we'll go to Mr. Daniels back there?
Yes, sir. This topic has been raised in the past, and we have Mr. McCaney here tonight, but so really wanted to bring it back to the board. I think last time we discussed it, it was maybe more of a consideration and a continuation to think of it. I do think it's appropriate, since it was requested to be revisited. The commissioner is here to speak to the information that was prepared in your packet, and of course, answer any questions you may have of how our existing program is worked, structured versus other localities. And the goal here tonight would really get some, be to get some final direction from the Board of Supervisors of, A, how you feel about our existing program, or is there different directions you wish to direct staff to move on?
Anybody have any questions for Jonathan? All right, Commish, go ahead. Yeah, neither way.
Anyway, here's our, I just did a little real quick little breakdown, tried to keep it pretty simple, as far as what we're doing versus surrounding localities. Again, our income limit is 30,000, so a household can have 30,000. That includes anybody living in the household, could be a grandson, could be a non-relative, doesn't matter. The $30,000 is their annual income limit. That includes Social Security, whatever, any other government benefit they may receive. The asset limit is $75,000 currently. That excludes the house and 3 acres. So you would not, when you're calculating that asset, you're deducting out the house value and the 3 acres of land. So they could have, 12 acres of land, as long as the residual acreage did not calculate up to the 75,000 or exceed that 75,000, assuming no other assets, they could qualify based on that, and they would get their house in 3 acres. Or actually, I'm sorry, they would get their entire property exempted if they could qualify. And so there, you see the max tax exemption. We have basically, as long as they can qualify, they get unlimited. So their tax bill, you know, of course, with the previous limitations, it's not going to exceed, but, you know, but so much, because at some point they would exceed that threshold. You know, we are one of the few in the state that do the deferral, you know, but it is, you know, that is perfect. That's how the code was first introduced, with an option of the exemptions or deferrals. I know the city of Williamsburg still only offers the deferral. There are some localities that offer both. You know, typically they have a lower threshold for an exemption and then a higher threshold for the deferral. It is typically how that operates. Any other questions?
So Brian, you could have a $500,000 house as long as your other assets, you met the qualifications of the other two things.
Correct, correct. And that's where, I mean, you know, if you had, let's just do a scenario of a widow, didn't have any other assets, and like you said, you could have $1 million home, and we exempt that. You know, I don't know what the tax bill on $1 million home is, $3,000, $4,000, something like that. You would exempt that entire amount. And there is the option in the code, the statute allows for, you know, limiting a threshold, as you see, Culpeper and Rappahannock have that limit on the amount of exemption they would provide.
Go ahead, Judd.
What kind of money are we talking about? How many people are on it right now? And
We have 12 people currently on it, and right around 13,000.
And that's deferred, not exempted.
That's deferred, not exempt, correct.
Jim?
Yeah, Brian, what's the rollback period, 3 years,
5 years
5 years?
on the, on this, you know, we have 5 years, there's no interest calculated. So like land use, you calculate interest on that deferred amount. However, this is just straight 5 year of that deferred amount of money. If it's due to someone passing away, you have a year to pay it back. If they sell the house, it's within, it's pretty quick, you know, if you have money. Let me look. Fail to recall. If he sells the house, it should be paid at the time of sale. And 1 year if they pass away, and if they fail to qualify, it's prior to the next tax bill. So let's say you come into some money, somebody comes into some money for whatever reason, and they no longer qualify, then that's when it would become due upon the next tax bill. So theoretically, 6 months at most.
Can I throw out a scenario question?
Sure.
And I don't think this way, so I don't want you to get the wrong idea. But let's suppose that I had a small home, or I had a medium-sized home. And I decided that in order to evade some taxes on if we were just having an exemption, if I put that home's name in my mother, who she's dead now, but I put that home's name in a parent, and then for 5 years, they pay no taxes, property taxes. At the end of the 5 years or 6 years or whatever, they die and live in the house. That means that if that were an exemption, that tax would never be paid, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Would you be living in the house with them, though?
No.
Okay.
I just want to evade taxes on my thousands of properties. I don't have that, but I'm just saying, I can see that being a motivation to manipulate the exemption. I don't think it would happen a lot, but I think it's a way around the law of paying your taxes. There's enough of that.
If we were to go to an exemption instead of a deferral, do you see a floodgate of people applying for this?
Of course, that's totally speculation.
Yeah, of course it is.
But, yeah, I mean, I would imagine that number would at least double, if not threefold, you know, early on, and then
What are-
as news got out.
Well, people that qualify for it currently that are not utilizing the deferral, what's their rationale on not utilizing it?
And I think that's probably the most, that's what's preventing people that could qualify from not participating is, they don't want to leave that to their children. And again, they don't want to leave that liability so they continue to live, below their means maybe. Knowing that they could qualify for it, however, they're not going to put that burden on who they leave the house to.
With the assertion of preservation of the home place?
Yeah, that's my assumption.
All right. Mind if
I don't
Yeah.
get a lot of
Yeah, I
feedback
got one more question.
Yeah, all right.
when we're doing it. We do try to make sure when somebody gets in the program, we work hard to make sure they're not coming out of the program unless they pass away. Because we do require a new application every year, but we reach out, we try to start early and reach out because
There's 12 people.
folks can forget so we work to keep anybody that's qualified the prior year.
Part
in the
of it.
program.
Yeah.
So, Brian, when they don't qualify anymore, or they pass away, or they sell it, what does that come up in a title search? That's how it's reclaimed?
Correct, and that may be some of the issue prior, that we've had. We can't disclose that information,
Right?
because it is private. So again, when somebody's calling in and saying, hey, we're selling that property, unless they know to ask the right questions, we can't disclose it. Now, there are avenues to find out prior year's tax bills, et cetera, or, because oftentimes the people that participate, I would assume, are prideful and don't want to disclose to their kids or whoever else that I had to participate in that program. So I can see where, they're too prideful and then it pops up on the sale or after the sale, because we don't find out about it until we get the transfer, which may be 3 months later, by the time it's worked its way through the courts and that sort of thing.
So if it pops up well after the sale, then it'd be on I figured that the seller would be paying this, but it could be the buyer would have to pay?
No,
If-
the liability would not transfer to the buyer.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, but,
But that all could be curtailed within the sales contract.
yeah.
Right.
As long as
That's-
everybody knows about
Yeah,
it.
That's how it
that-
typically
yeah,
would work,
that's-
and, it's typically disclosed, I believe.
Yeah.
However,
Sometimes.
I don't know. I'm just one where I think you ought to pay your own way. So I don't have any appetite for changing the method on how we're handling this.
I tend to agree with that. You mind if I bring Kevin up to let him make his piece? Everybody
Can I-
okay
can I
with
say
that? Yeah,
before you
good.
do that?
Yeah, please,
So
Joe.
there's a lot of proud people in this county, and I've dealt with some of them, and they turn down help, and they'll skip their medication, they'll do those type of things. So I'd like to know what kind of money is involved here if we did go the other way. And Rappahannock's similar in size as us. Do they have 1,000 people on this program? Or do they have 20 people on this
they
program?
have 75 about,
On their program?
and it's about 120,000.
Okay.
On our side or on
It's
their side?
Rappahannock.
Rappahannock's 120. Yeah, all right. Okay.
That's lost revenue.
So for me to think
120,000 lost revenue.
somebody might be skipping medication or food or a meal, and for that kind of money, I'm not sure.
But that's my point on that also, is that we are deferring their taxes during their life. So they are getting the benefit of this tax break to handle that while they're alive. It's just when they decide to sell or they pass away, then this liability goes to the next man up, as they say. So I maintain that we are helping them the whole time.
Kevin?
Good evening, Kevin McCaney from Craig Louisville. Cardy, if I can maybe address what you just said first. and just sort of looking at that situation. So somebody who is in this tax deferral program and 1 year by chance happens to hit $31,000 in income because they got a bonus, or, someone came and stayed at their house who's making money aside from them that had nowhere else to go. Now all of a sudden they're out of the program because they hit 31,000 instead of 30,000, and they're immediately owe those last 5 years of taxes to the county at that point in time. So as soon as you fall out of that program, for any reason along the way, you immediately owe those last 5 years of taxes. So if you look at what our, sort of how you qualify for this, we're not looking at the people who are well-to-do people like, any of us. It's typically going to be somebody that's probably inherited that property from their parents, and they're a second or third generation person here in Madison that doesn't have a lot of resources. They don't have the money to pay taxes, and so, if we don't at least have the tax deferral, they're going to be out on their ear without anywhere to live at all. But what we're doing is we're sort of boxing these people in, and, at the end, they're going to owe those last 5 years of taxes. So I think y'all just said, well, it could be a $500,000 house. Well, guess what? The average sales price for a house in Madison is pushing $500,000 now. The lowest listed property in Madison County right now is $399,000. You can't even look in the MLS to see anything for less than that currently for sale, and that's just a little 3-bedroom, 2-bath house on, 2 acres. So, when you look at that and you look at what sort of our criteria is for getting the tax deferment, it's even low compared to the other counties who are all in, a tax relief scenario. And I don't want us to walk away from here thinking that, we're doing people a real favor when every county surrounding us, and Brian had to go to Williamsburg to find another county in Virginia that doesn't have tax relief. So we're the only guys who are in a tax deferral scenario instead of a tax relief scenario for these few people who are, people who are really in need. And, I don't know about everyone else, but I'm certainly willing to pitch in a little bit more to help out these people instead of putting them in a worse scenario than they are right now. And, it may come down to, gosh, well, we've got to rob Peter to pay Paul. We've got to look at not having the resources for something else. And I don't know that that's a good argument for why we're sort of not looking out for our elderly citizens who've been here for a long time.
What was your question on 399? That you said that there isn't anything listed in Madison
Correct. Right now, the lowest listed property in Madison is $399,000.
with a residence on it?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Residential.
yeah. There's a bunch of I searched real quick, and there's a bunch of land on in Madison that's substantially less than that.
Oh, yeah.
A whole bunch.
For sure.
All right. Anybody have questions for Kevin?
No, but if that's a concern with Mr. McCain, and I understand that because there's also a cutoff limit on Social Security. Once you hit a certain threshold, they substantially reduce your Social Security payment. So might not a solution to this be raise the income limit on the deferral to possibly that level, which I think is significantly higher than 30,000, I don't remember.
Right.
But that just throwing that idea out there.
So I would just, personally, for me, it's even more the issue of the relief versus the deferral. What brought this to my attention a couple years ago was a closing that we had in Madison County where the heirs were selling their mother's house. It wasn't found out till 3 months after the sale, once it got to Brian's office, that it was in the tax deferral program, and then they owed a bunch of money. Well, these days, $500,000, a $500,000 property over 5 years is, well, we can ask Brian, but it's at least $10,000 that was
It's
due
about
and
18.
payable. I'm sorry.
About 18. I did it on
Okay.
250,000 this afternoon. It was 9250, so
Right.
double it. Okay.
So it's a big chunk of change that, is sort of, pushed on. And that, sometimes those properties will sell, and it depends on the market and when it is and the condition of the property, but they may not walk away with any profit selling a house. A house could be sold, and they don't make any money off of it at all, but yet they now have this burden of this tax, and who's to say whether those, heirs have any money or not either. This certainly wasn't someone who left them, a lot because they qualified for this program. So they weren't, lavished in riches from their, as heirs.
All right, anybody else have any questions for Kevin? Kevin, thank you.
I appreciate y'all's consideration.
Yes, sir. What would y'all like to do with this?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we retain the method of tax deferment that we have in place now.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? I tend to agree with Cardy on this, is that it is a, the deferral works for it, and with the preservation of a home place, I can understand the burden coming back. I would think that the bonus on somebody above the age of 65, that has to be a very small amount of people that would qualify for that. We're certainly sympathetic to people that are in this bracket, and also that don't want to pass along a burden to their heirs, and sacrifice in a lot of ways. But I see this as part of this is part of owning property and being a part of a community. It's unfortunate. Nobody likes paying taxes, no matter if they're deferred or paid straight up, but that is just kind of where we're at on things. I think the deferrals is a way to do it, and if we wanted to evaluate and change income limits or something, I think that's a proposal that we could go down the path on potentially. But at this point, I don't see any reason to change. Any other discussion? Please.
I do have, so, to Jim's point, I had looked at that this afternoon too. So, Jonathan, if we were to look at any of that, the income limit or the asset limit or whatever, would that be done at the end of our budget period when we set all the other rates and stuff? Or this doesn't fall into that category?
I think this would track with your ordinance for the program.
100%.
Oh, okay.
Because this is a program. The other ones are administrative fees, like building permits and things of that nature.
All right, please, go ahead.
So we could think about this and decide to have a public hearing to change the ordinance then?
Yeah.
Would be the method. Okay, I'm done.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Nay? All right, we got a nay. All right, stays as a deferral at this point. I do think maybe we can talk about when we start talking about revenues a little bit as we get into the budget, and at least it's kind of part of it. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
All right, there you go. New business. Grays Mountain large event permits. Mr. Weekly, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are several event permit applications before you tonight. First one, and two of those are from Grays Mountain Lodge. The first one up is the Heritage Day. This is something that occurs every year. Just for some of you that may not be tracking, there are two different event thresholds. Category 1, normally approved by the zoning administrator. That's anything, I think it's above 300 or 350 people. If it reaches over the 700, then it's board approval. So I wanted to bring awareness to this. It's a pretty standard event, no concerns from emergency management standpoint. So we have all the proof of liability, everything for the event. So it's there, staff recommends approval, but it's there for your decision. And again, this is Heritage Day.
Y'all want to do these as one or two? I'd rather do them as Do we have to do them as
The
single?
last one, Tour de Madison, I'm
No,
gonna
I was
recommend
thinking
separate.
I was thinking the cross-country since
Would you
it's
like
the
me to
same
go ahead and-
vendor. Yes,
and touch
please.
base on that?
Exactly.
So, Grays Mountain Lodge, several years ago, started to have, and it's motocross. I need to change that. I always called it motocross, but it's motocross, for those who are enthusiasts. And they used to have one event, which I think that's the one they called the Hair Scrambler. It's become pretty popular. I think we're on some kind of a championship series bracket. You'd have to talk to, like, the name of organizer, Mr. Deal, for more information. But this is another race series. I believe last year was the first time they had two events. So this would be the same as last year. So this event is scheduled to take place in April. Again, no concerns per se for emergency management. As always, anytime you're having, I don't want to speak it to the existence, but up in the mountain, motorbikes, I know other places like Edinburgh that have George Washington National Forest have these type of things. There could be risk, but again, we've looked at it. They have all their insurance, points of contact. So that is less than 700, but being the type of event it is, I wanted to bring it to your attention. And staff too recommends approval of that permit application. So those are the two events that are slated for Grays Mountain Lodge.
All right, what would you all like to do? Questions, comments, thoughts, motion on these two, Heritage Day and then the VXCS race?
All right, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request from Graves Mountain Lodge for the Heritage Day and VXCS race permits.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Tour to Madison. Jonathan?
Thank you, and I'll give notice, once sign off, those will go back to the applicant. So on Tour de Madison, one slight change I want to point out. First off, this is their, I think, 36th annual event, so it's been going on for quite some time. We do have all their information. What makes this a little unique that you didn't see in the other permit applications, anytime you have some kind of access request, even use of roads for VDOT, it sounds kind of weird, but it is, you're required to get a land use permit, an LUP. They're not disturbing any land, but it's an activity. And this isn't uncommon. For example, when Culpeper County has their three-county event where they bike, I think that's usually in October, they too have to get a land use permit. No concerns for emergency management except for one conversation I had with the sheriff. If you can go to the last page of that application, Kim, it's the one that's got the signature page for me. It's the LUP-SEA. So the sheriff was concerned about liability. And if you look under remarks, what Kim has before you, in that thank you, Kim. Madison County accepts no responsibility or liability by acknowledging this event might occur. And then it says applicant will follow all requirements imposed by the Madison County Sheriff's Department. So the Sheriff's Department is not imposing anything. I mean, they would have to, obey any traffic law that's statute by the state of Virginia. But he was concerned about liability. So I called the person who's in charge of the event, Mr. Barry Penholler, and said, look, is this standard language? He said, actually, I pulled that language from several applications from years ago, and that's what's there. I said, oh, so we can change it. So I talked to the sheriff. I said, what if we omitted that last sentence where it says applicant will follow requirements, all that, and then we edit the one above that where it would say Madison County and the Madison County Sheriff's Department accepts no responsibility or liability by acknowledging that this event might occur. And he's fine with that change. So that is a revision that I wish to bring for you tonight as you consider approval of this land use permit. And then before an event can take place, you can see the two signatory requirements here locally is the county administrator, and then the sheriff, and then the state police as well, and VDOT have to sign off. So the two local action is the sheriff and myself, but that's after your approval.
Henry, we know people can sue us for basically anything, and have tried. What liability would the sheriff's department have specific to them at all?
Sheriff's Department would have, are they, is the Sheriff's Department being?
They are doing no traffic control, performing no service, so they would come through at the bay, any stop sign or any traffic control light. I think the area they're crossing is Fishback and 29 on the Main Street. So the sheriff is doing no flagging, no traffic control, none of that.
They're not getting paid to do anything?
Correct.
obviously? I mean, they would have their normal,
Yeah, like
Sovereign
everybody else.
yeah,
Okay.
every other government
Yeah.
entity.
All right. What's everybody think about the amendment that Jonathan has proposed? You
Yeah,
all-
Jonathan, so the
Please.
sheriff and Barry agreed to that amendment?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. All right, what would y'all like to do here? They've been doing this for a long time. It seems to be good.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the special event application for Tour de Madison with the amendments that the county administrator has put forth.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, do we have any discussion? What about information and correspondence? We all understand that Plow and Hearth is going through hard time and there'll be a loss of employment there. It's a hard hit for Madison County. It's a hard hit for all those employees. And we're working with the WARN Act, working with some of the nonprofits that have come to us already, to see what we can do to facilitate potential employment moving forward. You got anything to say on that one?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Immediately hearing about this, I spoke to Mr. Bauer, who's on that press release. He's in I think Vice President of Human Resources for Evergreen Enterprises. We sympathize. It's not an easy decision, but we wanted to let them know Madison County stays ready. Unbeknown, we had already talked to Piedmont chapter of the workforce, and they had already began conversation with the Virginia state level, which is good because they need to work with those individuals who are going to have employment challenges. They can work with whether there are other job opportunities they can point them towards, or some folks may need help with resumes and things of that nature. So that's in play. Also, if there's anything for, this isn't trying to be insensitive, but looking past or looking forward, earlier in conversations, they were unsure about use of space. I did see in their press release that they may be open to opportunity of lease or other things. So I did emphasize this morning that whatever that looks like through transition or assisting with new tenants or whatever they choose to do with the property, we stand ready for that as well. I mentioned, we're part of Go Virginia, which is Region 9 is our effort, as well as a Central Virginia Economic Partnership Development, which is tied into Virginia Economic Development Partnership. So there are many opportunities. That site is very attractive. There's the heavy power that goes through. There's fiber. They already have their own water and sewer infrastructure, including a retention pond. It's a major thoroughfare of a road, so it checks a lot of boxes. Again, it's their property. We just stand ready to assist, but we also sympathize for those who are affected. So sad day for Madison County.
So what's the period of time that they're going to wind down? So when I got to work at Skyline today, we couple of the ladies there that we were laid off last year this time. We hired them, and so they knew it this morning from talking to everybody. We're talking about October 1st or something. Are they going to slowly wind down? Is that?
Majority of the 107 jobs that they announced that would be laid off, and there's a chart, they list positions and number of
Right.
people in their press release. Most of those folks employment would end by May 3rd. There are a few positions, now they didn't name which of those positions, but a few positions that will kind of be staggered on, to your point, Mr. Yao. But I do not know the number of positions or the type of positions, but pretty much by the end of this calendar year, whatever those small level of positions would go away. They did confirm the 2 brick and mortar stores on 29 are not affected by this, so we did clarify that through them. So again, whatever ventures or things they may have ready for that site, they have also indicated in the next couple of weeks, they will continue to communicate with us, which is good. We want to be a partner. It's a sad day. We also want to be a part of any new revival, if you will, and use of that property. So hopefully there'll be some good news to come.
I assume that our Director of Economic Development is going to stay closely involved with this, communicating with this.
I have directed to do so. There was kind of some rumor in the community yesterday, and I had them contact their human resources on site yesterday to kind of get a sense. But yes, sir, absolutely. I gave Mr. Bauer her contact. He has my contact as well. So moving forward, again, we want to be as involved as much as they let us. It's sad, I was looking back at some of the news clippings, I think, back when Terry McAuliffe was governor in 2014, there was an announcement of a 48,000 square foot expansion to that facility. So, again, it'll be very attractive. It's just when they are ready to make those certain business decisions, we'll stay in communication, and when we're able to have those conversations with the board, we will. Sometimes they like to keep those things private until they make certain decisions, but certainly as much as they'll let us be involved, we will be involved.
I'd also be curious to know how many of those employees are actually Madison citizens.
I will see if they will give me that number directly. It's a very good question. I think I've had that question, 5 different people have asked, so it's a very relevant question. I'll see if I can get an answer for you, sir.
Who else have any comments on this one? All right. Back to public comment. Public comment. Nothing. Yeah, there you go. All right, we don't have a closed session. What would y'all like to do?
Move to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you all.
Thank you.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Gonna be home early, Gracie.